Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Selinsky, and I'm a development lead for YouTube Originals. I'm so excited to be here today for this panel on producing during the lockdown. So just for some context, YouTube Originals prides itself on being entertaining, responsive, and relevant, whether it's big tentpole documentaries like Justin Bieber's Seasons, formatted competition shows like Instant Influencer, live stunts like Will Smith's The Jump. We develop and produce premium content that takes a very large team, ample time, energy, and thoughtfulness to execute. But we would soon be asked to develop quicker than ever, produce nimbly and remotely, and pivot repeatedly. I had been at the company for just about 2 months and was maybe figuring out how to navigate Google Docs when we got word that all productions were being put at hold. All of the carefully laid plans from our programming and the pipeline of projects that we had ready to go shoot came to a grinding halt. But content had to be made, right? The audience hadn't gone anywhere. And in fact, they were more available than ever. So as a company, we had a question to ask ourselves. How do we produce during a global pandemic? Our marketing team had just started a campaign called Stay at Home as a way to demonstrate how YouTube was a vehicle to show people all the things they can do at home while encouraging them to stay at home. And as YTO, we wanted to align with that mission to bring together creators who had interesting stories to tell and provide entertainment that was produced, shot, and edited remotely. A very big departure from the large production crews, sets, and infrastructure that many of our shows typically require. But what actually surprised us in the end was that some of these shows actually ended up better doing it this way. So we produced completely new versions of our shows. We created formats that brought people together without actually ever having to bring them together in the same room. So from our music documentary, Stay Home with Youngblood, fundraisers like the UK's Stream With Me, stay-at-home sports like the Ultimate Homes Championship, a dance celebration with Move With Me, and many more. We accomplished these projects with clear creative goals, unwavering deadlines, and a little bit of hopefulness. So today we're going to dive in deeper to 4 of these. First off, we'll be talking about 3 live events we did with a panel of producers who helped make it happen, and then discuss one series we did in a conversation with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So let's dig in. The creator games. All right, you all know and love Mr. Beast, whose #1 goal is to top himself with each and every video he makes. And it goes without saying that he's been very successful in doing so. So when you have a creator with an incredible track record, the pressure is on even more to make sure we deliver the same results. Global pandemic be damned. So when Mr. Beast wanted to carry out the largest live stream that YouTube Originals had ever seen and bring together 32 of the biggest creators for a stay-at-home game, it was really important to our team that we got it on the air as fast as humanly possible. We set a deadline for 4 weeks. Just to give you guys some context, we would usually have 12 to 14 weeks from greenlighting a show like this to it hitting the air. Second, we had to find the right technology to remotely stream in 32 creators from across the country. This was a massive challenge, as you can imagine, because we're testing out new technology in an incredibly condensed timeline. So we started with the right team. Mr. Beast had the creative, we just needed to give him the right tools. So we teamed up with a production company, Fly on the Wall, who was well-versed in taking on fast turnaround live events. They had most recently done our live stream events with Katy Perry and with Will Smith. And look, the importance here is you got to find people you have a shorthand with who you trust to deliver based on previous experience. In the end, the show received 650,000 live concurrent views and 32 million views. Let's take a look at a clip from it.
I invited 32 of the biggest YouTubers I know, like Jack Black, Ninja, Laserbeam, Marcus Brownlee, David Dobrik, Jeffree Star, Casey Neistat, and so many more to this $250,000 rock, paper, scissors tournament. But here's the thing, 32 entered, but only 1 will win. Before we jump into this rock, paper, scissors tournament, which is kind of funny, a $250,000 rock, paper, scissors tournament.
This is serious.
Before we jump into it, I just want to say all the money raised on this stream will go to the World Health Organization for coronavirus relief. They use the money to help develop a vaccine, help first responders. It'll be for good stuff. This is the trophy. We put a lot of effort into it. We actually have real analysts here.
Thank you, Jimmy.
And let's have some fun.
All right. I'd like to introduce founder and CEO of Night Media, Reed Dukeshire, who I had the pleasure of working with on Creator Games. His client, Mr. Beast, with nearly 40 million subscribers, who's raised over $22 million for Team Trees, wanted to throw this massive rock, paper, scissors game remotely and live. So, Reed, what was Jimmy's original idea for Creator Games, and how did you guys have to pivot creatively when you realized a global pandemic would prevent 32 people from being in the same place?
Yeah, we pitched this to you guys, a year and a half ago, and it was supposed to be in a stadium. So we had originally targeted the Staples Center. I know it seems crazy, but we were like, let's get 15,000 people in a stadium. Let's do an overly produced rock, paper, scissors event. Take a simple game, make it larger than life. And so that was originally the creative. I know we kind of put a hold on it. And then as everything happened with COVID, we kind of pivoted into this digital version of can we bring people in via webcam? And also the interesting thing about it is we're able to now pull in a laser beam from Australia, a Kwebbelkop from Amsterdam. We had people from South America. And so from a standpoint of logistically bringing creators together is so much easier for us to be able to pull this off through a webcam.
Totally. And we're definitely going to dive in a bit more in a bit and ask you more questions about it. But for now, I'm going to bring in the next show, Bear Witness, Take Action. So the week was full of palpable tension with racial injustice movements occurring throughout the country. When Friday at 4 p.m., my colleagues and I were called together for an emergency meeting. It was very, very important to everyone at Google that we demonstrated our commitment to racial injustice, both on and off the platform. And our CEO wanted to make sure we had something to show in 10 days. So we were asked to create a thoughtful conversation centered around Black voices who were critical in shaping political and cultural change. But this time we only had 2 weeks to carry it out. This was a company-wide effort, calling in voices and expertise from all areas of the platform. We knew we couldn't develop this in a vacuum. We knew we needed the right educators to inform our creative choices. So we called upon executives in our learning team, public policy, social impact, creator partnerships, and many, many more to give us the context we needed. And once again, we needed the right team to produce. So we partnered with Fly on the Wall for their prowess and fast follow shows, Spring Hill Entertainment for a unique creative point of view, and we needed to find the right captain to steer the ship and hold us accountable in achieving the creative goals we outlined. So we reached out to Reggie Hudlin to executive produce the special. Bear Witness, Take Action was a 2-hour live stream that featured artists, creators, scholars, and prominent activists, and was a way and an opportunity for the YouTube community to speak out, to learn, and to make a difference. So let's watch a trailer for the show. All right, I'd like to introduce writer, director, and producer Reggie Hudlin, who I was lucky enough to have worked with on the show. And I have to tell you, we were all thinking, how in the world will we get this done? And at that point, 9 days. But I have to say, Reggie, you joined the call, you set the tone, and you really made us realize that we were going to be able to navigate this. Reggie, you've produced the Oscars, an Oscar-nominated film. We're the president of BET Network, and just became the first ever Black executive producer of the Primetime Emmys. So we know you're no stranger to creativity under pressure, but how are you able to generate creative in 2 weeks and pull off just an incredibly nuanced, important, and sensitive special? I mean, where do you even begin your process?
Well, I remember I was sitting in my backyard on Saturday afternoon, and I got a phone call from Alex Piper, who, and said, "Hey, Reg, hey, Alex, how you doing?" And Alex and I had worked together on a TV series on a traditional network, and he explained his new position at YouTube, and he explained the nature of the show, which I immediately got very excited about because I very much care about all those issues. I was, using social media, following everything that was happening. And when he said he wanted to do a special about it, I said 100%, I'm so excited. I really want to be involved. And he goes, well, we have 9 days. So there's only one answer to that. No problem, right? Because it's the right thing. And if you're doing the right thing, it'll work out. And you just have to make sure you are working with people who are as passionate about the issues as you are. And when you say, how do you prepare? It's not how do you prepare in that moment. It's how do you prepare for the past 20 years? Meaning, I'm a person who's a very socially active person, politically active person. So there were all these people who I knew would be the right voices to be involved in this, both as producers and as people who we want to have speaking on panels and so on. I knew they were music artists that would have something to say. So we were like, okay, let's not just have a bunch of talking heads. Let's make sure our entertainment quotient is really high. So, let's put some live music performances in, which again, very ambitious. Usually when we do an award show, it's 6 months, maybe at most it's 3 months. So we had 9 days. But, with the help of the YouTube team, with Fly on the Wall, with Spring Hill, we had a lot of really smart people all working together. Some of us knew each other before. Some of us were getting to know each other. So very important to communicate very clearly, very important to connect and say, and to state very clearly what the goals are. Those are the things that help make it happen.
I love it. All right, we're going to ask you a bit more in a bit. But next, I'm going to hop over to Dear Class of. All right, so with graduation ceremonies across the country being canceled, millions of students were left missing a very important milestone. So YouTube wanted to help turn the feeling of disappointment into the feeling of connection and celebration. Once again, the clock was ticking and expectations were high. The YTO team landed on the concept of community and bringing together the class of 2020 in a celebration of resilience and possibility. The goal was to find leaders, creators, and artists to help voice that sentiment. And they started with Mrs. Obama as the embodiment of those themes. Next was casting it. After getting the Obamas on board, our talent team had only 1 week to lock in headline talent in order to meet the delivery deadlines, a task that usually maybe would take about 10 weeks to do. So all of the talent would need to pre-tape themselves, send in their footage, and have a team edit it down to fit the creative of the show. In the end, I believe we had over 150 talent who participated in this event. But even in the midst of creating this monumental event, there was undeniable pain and unrest occurring in the world. This made the show that much more meaningful and relevant. The team quickly pivoted last minute with new recordings and an opening remark that addressed the racial injustice that was at the forefront of every household discussion. Let's watch some highlights from the show.
Congratulations to the class of 2020. Now let's turn it up.
There's nothing and no one that can stop you from changing the world.
Congratulations, class of 2020.
Yo! Congratulations! Congrats! I don't think my microphone's working.
You will prevail.
There's so much amazing stuff that's just waiting to be discovered and designed and built, and you guys are the ones that are going to do it.
It is your passion. Work for it. Embrace it.
Expect the unexpected, but celebrate anyway.
Find that silver lining.
That's pretty awesome.
This is the part where you grow.
So, take all of this advice with a grain or an entire shaker of salt.
Don't be defined by what you lose in this crisis, but by how you respond to it.
It's still so important that you take this moment to appreciate what you've achieved.
I'm so proud of you all. Congratulations. See you in the world.
You are in one of the most important transitions of your life, and yet these are not normal times. But normal is a myth. This, the unknown, the unexpected, this is real, because again and again in your career, no, in your life, you're gonna have things that don't go your way.
All right, we are joined by producer Kristin Wong, who has produced specials like A Legendary Christmas with John and Chrissy, and the Kennedy Center Mark Twain Prize for Dave Chappelle, among many others. And she's going to give us some insight into this gigantic undertaking. Kristin, how can you get creative? Hi. How do you get creative about making, dozens and dozens of remotely shot videos look more intriguing, than an iPhone video?
Well, first of all, it was really fun to hear that Lizzo trap Pomp and Circumstance again. So, like, I'm back in it. And like, I've been thinking about it, and I've been telling my friends, like, it just reminded me of college before we were professionals, and when we had to look around and get resourceful, and when we were making like skits and films in our dorm rooms all the time. And, we just had to look around, get creative with what we had, and, just put out some ideas. Like, we'd be like, okay, I have 2 ferns. I think we can do a jungle scene. You know what I mean? And it's really fun to do that. And in the end, a lot of people rose to the occasion, and YouTube is just like the best platform for it, because the creativity, there are no rules. So we were kind of in this sweet spot where everybody could just think up ideas and throw out ideas and execute them. And in the end, it just kind of came down to the basics: good lighting, good sound, good audio, like good framing, and, just relying on all the things that we learned before we were professionals and putting it all together.
That's great. Yeah. Back to the basics.
Yeah.
Great.
Back to the basics, but no limits on creativity. I think that's what the point was.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Kristin. Let's go to everybody now. We're going to just open this up, have a panel sort of conversation. And to start, again, I just want to say I've loved working with Reed and Reggie and Kristin. I can't wait till we get to work together. But how are you guys doing? I mean, all 3 of you are very creative, very collaborative. Do you miss being on set? Do you feel like you're adjusting? I mean, Reggie, how for you? Are you missing your crew?
Yes and no. Meaning, I love the camaraderie of being on set. I mean, we're doing the Emmys right now with, Kristin and her colleagues. And it's a drag that we don't get to hang out together. It's great to talk to Jimmy Kimmel via Zoom, but I wish I was in the same room as Jimmy Kimmel. That said,
me too.
I'm getting amazing amount of stuff done remotely. I mean, as soon as we finish the 2-hour special with you guys, I did a half-hour special the following week, and here I am working on yet another one. So the reality is, life is about change. Life is about adaptation. There was that great clip from the special where Kerry Washington says, "This is real life. This is how it works." So it's all of, evolution is not the strongest or the smartest, but the person who's most able to adapt. And that's what all of us here on this panel do. We adapt.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, we do.
I mean, I do miss that moment, when you like walk into the venue for the first time and it feels like the calm before the storm, or like you're at craft service and you just had a crazy day and you look at the person next to you while you're like scarfing mac and cheese and you're like, what a crazy day, y'all. And I do miss that. But as Reggie was saying, like we're having that kind of camaraderie in a different way. Yes. And, whether it's like on chats like this or like hilarious text chains, we're still there for each other.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm actually I'm so used to this digital world because I come from the gaming, like live streaming where you have a webcam and you're playing Grand Theft Auto, right? So it wasn't that big of a switch for us. I'm so used to being in a Discord chat and communicating with people over the internet. I think the weird thing about it was just our ability to like actually get workflow done actually, I think, increased because people were at their computers all day long, whether that's a good or bad thing. For me to get something at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night, like all the talent, the production company, like everyone was really responsive. But I think like for us, like we're so used to this like webcam interaction.
That's why we know now why Reed's camera and mic setup is
so good.
So premium.
I had such an idea that I was like,
if it wasn't like, if it was bad, I would get memed by Jimmy and Preston and everyone else. So I kind of had to like step up the game.
Reed, I'm gonna call you after. Maybe you can like help me with mine a little bit.
For sure, I'll send everything over. I'll put it on the email thread.
Thank you.
All right, so I know we talked about this a little bit, but I want to dive in a bit more on what ways, having to do these shows remotely actually ended up benefiting the show from a creative standpoint. So, Reed, I know you touched on it a bit from the casting perspective, but can you, provide any other, how else do you think creatively we benefited in the end?
I think from a comfort level too, Jimmy was much more comfortable in his own studio, in his hometown, like us kind of building this thing out and not relying on talent to fly to us. Whereas when we originally pitched this, we were going to have to fly out to LA. We were going to have to be in a stadium, which is a very new environment for him. And so from that perspective, I think he was much more comfortable. And you guys saw it in the stream, just with like his demeanor. He's never hosted a show before. So it was a little scary, I think, for all of us. But he handled it very well. And then, like I said before, we were also able to pull in talent from everywhere in the world, right? Like that would have been very difficult, even for us to get someone like David Dobrik to come and show up for 3 to 4 hours to do a rock, paper, scissors event would have probably been a little bit more difficult than us just being like, hey, David, show up. We need you on your webcam for at least an hour, hour and a half. It was very easy for us to book talent.
Yeah, next time, hopefully he won't get knocked out in the first round.
I know. That's on him. He shouldn't have chosen Rock right out of the gate. Like that's on him.
Got up his game.
Come on, man.
But speaking of talent, there's all of these projects had a slew of talent in them. So, what do you think a talent looks for in a project to say yes? Or how, as producers, can you make something like this enticing for talent to take part in? So, Kristin, I'll ask you, considering I think we had, again, like over 150 pieces of talent. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that like it's meaning, finding something that is worth their time and their voice and their energy. And with like this show, everybody was personally connected to it. Everyone was a graduate in some way, or they knew current 2020 graduates. And we all remembered that moment where we felt like the world was ours, right? And we felt like there was endless possibilities. So everyone very, very easily rallied around this. And like with the help from the Obamas, everybody was just kind of like, hey, what can I do? I want to be a part of this. And this, I echo what Reed was saying. It was just this, this looseness. People were in their own homes. They felt comfortable, and it helped everybody get really, really creative. So I think that, meaning, and also it doesn't always have to be, a great cause. Sometimes it's just fun and like a great idea, and being a part of something, being a part of a big cultural swing is something that I feel like brings people out. And and we got really, really lucky. And the same, we had people from all over the world. So it was awesome.
Yeah. And Reggie, I'd ask you the same question, for this project or even other projects, how do you get talent on board? How do you, make something enticing for them?
Yeah, I mean, don't want to repeat what everyone else said, but obviously the value of talent kind of skyrocketed, because it's like, okay, who has a personality, who has a brand that translates over this new, somewhat challenging medium, right? So those people were very much in demand. So, and we're in the middle of a national crisis. So a guy like Brian Stevenson, certainly this guy who's been in the trenches for all this time, is wanted everywhere, on every news show, in every meeting with every politician, with all these other activists. So he's got to manage his time very carefully. So we've got to be flexible about what they can do. Okay, can you do a roundtable? No. Okay, Can you do a pre-tape? So, you have to work with those folks and figure out a platform that can work with their avails. And shooting it from their home makes it somewhat easier. Savvy also makes it easier. Some folks don't have the right room with a background. They don't have a camera, so we've got to get them access to equipment. And you go, could you just move that 4 degrees to the left and not be against a flat white wall? So it's working with them to make sure that they're shown in the best possible light.
Got it.
And Reggie, like I'm telling you, like for our show, we had a lot of surprises when people would send stuff in, and it would just be like really like, is this good? And you're like, oh no, it's not good. And you're like, wow. Like, it really felt like we have a job. Like, wow, we're important producers.
It's that there's certain instincts that we take for granted. You just go, oh wow, that didn't occur to you that a white shirt against a white wall and no, baby, don't do that.
No, that is very true. So, we all have to pivot all the time on any show we're doing. Ever. Nothing ever runs smoothly. We all know that. That's the number one thing of producing. Yeah, no, that's right. We've all had perfect shows. But Kristin, actually, this is, I know you had one in particular, a very big pivot that you guys had to make almost at the 11th hour. Talk a little bit about how you guys had to pivot to address the current climate and what you did.
Yeah, I mean, that is still a surreal moment in like my producing TV history. I think there's this one time where we were editing probably 2 days before delivery, and we were editing remotely. So our editors are at home, and we're watching through this program called Evercast. And I had that on my computer, and I had the news on my TV. And, there's just tanks after tanks after tanks rolling down Santa Monica Boulevard. And Santa Monica was on fire. And I would hear the helicopters in the sky. And here we are trying to edit like this really, really celebratory, comedic packages probably at the time. And I think like from that moment on, we were like, okay, yeah, we're not going to deliver as planned. And a really cool thing happened, which was everybody, without even any words, everybody knew the weight of the moment around them. We're all part of this culture. We've been watching, we've been listening and hearing and talking to each other, and everybody just knew what to do. And they knew that there was a huge responsibility upon us. And, artists, they came with a bunch of ideas. Our team came with a bunch of ideas. Everybody just rose to the occasion, and we were reshooting things till like the week that we were supposed to deliver, we were reshooting, many bits. And we were probably editing till like legitimately hours before broadcast. And it was pretty insane. But I think Reggie was saying this earlier. It's actually crazy what you can accomplish when everybody has a passion and everybody feels they know they have to do something. And like manpower wise, we could pull stuff off. And it's just everybody came together and put their all in it, and it worked out. We got really lucky.
Yeah.
Definitely. And guys, I have a question now from our audience. How can you produce unique content now that the world's creating more content being home? How do you stand out? So who wants to take this one?
Okay. I mean, as I was saying, Reggie, you go.
All right. Look, I mean, part of it is, we also are watching this content at home, and you got to, at the end of what you see, you go, what did I like about that show, and what didn't I like about that show, and how do you fill that hole? Because we're inventing a new form of entertainment, kind of real time, as a creative collective, right? We're all watching what each other does and going, that's cool, but man, I hate that part, or I'm bored with that idea already. So I think in the 3 or 4 months that we've all been like this, I mean, you could see the shows getting better and better with each new iteration. So I think that's part of it, is just, are you a consumer, and you know, and what do and don't you like as a consumer, and don't be stuck in the old tropes of what was on TV.
Yeah, completely agree.
Before. This is all new, no rules.
Yeah,
yeah, and
you just do. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we so this is an interesting question, because this is kind of, you know, what Jimmy kind of specializes in. So we take it from a different angle. We always start with, what would people click on, or what do we think is the most clickable video, right? And then he develops a thumbnail and a title around that concept. For instance, you guys have probably seen a lot of his videos, but one is like filling my friend's backyard with Orbeez. Right? It's like very interesting idea. He's like, how do I create a thumbnail where like my head's sticking out so people think there's like 6 feet of Orbeez in the backyard?
Yeah.
So I think we just kind of think about it the opposite way of like, we need to get people to click first. And then once we get them to click, how do we get them to stay? Right? And so that's kind of always been his thought process. And like, how do you create content that people continually want to watch and continually want to engage in? And it's always just kind of like raising that bar just a little bit. And you see it with his like Twitch donation videos, start with 10,000, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000. And it just kind of continues to climb the ladder until we pivot to like a different type of content or a different series.
Kristin.
That's like legit good intel. No, that's legit good intel right there. Cause like I'm over there clicking, I'm like, this looks really funny. This is going to be great. So he's got me. But no, I was kind of what everybody was saying. I think also you create something that you want to see, and you just do you. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of people who have something in common with you. And like all of a sudden you have an audience, and all you were doing was, you know, failing at bread making or something. So you just do you. And I think that's a good start. And then you think like Reed, and then you just become huge. So nailed it.
But you know, what I love about what Reed just said was, in the old days, right, in Hollywood, they would make a poster, right? And if theaters said, we want that movie, we want that for our theater, then you go, okay, let's make a movie that looks like that poster, right? But the poster came before the script. And that's kind of what you just said. Like, what's the sexy that's going to attract the eyeball? And then you make something that looks like what you just sold. Love that.
So a good example that I literally just saw a couple weeks ago is, if you log into Netflix, one of the most clicked on and most watched new series is actually The Floor is Lava, which weirdly enough is like a really popular series on YouTube that was incubated by like multiple creators over the last couple of years. And Netflix made a really like good clickable, like I don't know if they call it a thumbnail or not, but there's a reason why it's so popular and people are watching it. But it's also like it catches your eye. And so hopefully now, like Hulu, Netflix, like HBO Go, like they think about this first, where it's like, let's not do some simplistic movie poster. Like, let's make something eye-catching that people want to click on. And that's what YouTube creators have done really well.
No, definitely. And before I get to say goodbye to you guys, sadly, you know, some people watching this are just starting out their careers in production. So each one of you, if you could just tell them one piece of advice that you've received that just really stuck with you when it comes to creating. So Reggie, I'll start with you.
Look, just start. So many people are like, well, I don't know how to. You're fine. You've got a phone, okay? It's like, shoot it, cut it, post it, hear what people have to say, do it better next time. Just do the reps. It's like working out.
I mean, I feel like I just got that advice from Reggie, so I will take that, because like I echo that 100%. Like creating, you just got to do it, and it's like a verb, you know. It's not a theory. And this is advice to me every day, because I have a billion ideas in my head that are literally just going to end up as brain dust until I start doing them. And it's hard to do, and you have to create to flex your imagination as often as you can and build confidence. And yeah, you just got to do it. Sorry, that's the advice.
Yeah. All right.
I'm going to switch. Read.
I was lagging and it was driving me nuts. So I'm going to switch webcams. But I think it comes back to like what my mentor told me a long time ago is like, figure out how to provide value before you have an ask. Right. And so for people getting into production or getting into content creation or YouTube or whatever this segment is, maybe it's an editor or a thumbnail artist, you need to be able to provide value first, right? Like working for free or making sure that like creator knows that you know how to edit their content and you edit a few videos for free, because it gives you that like little bit of experience that you need to then like get to that next level. And so I get this question a lot from people that want to be in the industry or want to represent YouTubers. And the thing that I always go back to is like, figure out how to present value. Because I did this for 2 years for nothing and didn't make any money when I started signing creators and working with them. And so that's like the crutch that I always tell people to figure out is like, just present value first.
Love that.
Great advice, guys. And I got eager to get rid of you, but we actually have a little bit of time left. So I've got another, stay put. I have another question actually from the audience. So if we had to do this again, if you to do this again, right, produce these specific shows without Corona concerns, would you go back to a normal production setup or would you use this production format again?
Well, I'll say it in another way. I don't think any format eliminates a previous format, right? It just changes it, right? So, you know, television didn't eliminate radio or movies. It's just like, it changed what you did in radio and movies, right? Because, because television was its own thing. So I think this format is here to stay. I don't think we will go back to the traditional formats for some things, and some things will be done this way because there are strengths to what we're doing. And we're not done yet. We've got another 6 months or more of creating content in this format. So it's going to get better and better and better. So there's going to be a point where like, this is better than that show in the previous format. So I think this is here to stay, but there's also a power to being in the same room, in the same space, and being live. So it's just more cool stuff.
Yeah. Kristin, what about you?
So if I had to do Dear Class of 2020 again, I'd absolutely stick with exactly what we did. I mean, it was a show that was completely of the moment. I feel like it captured a time and a feeling, and it was only made possible because of, just everybody pivoting and innovating and creating. And yeah, I would not go back to a soundstage for this show. But for the floor is lava, I think we need that, Can't be digitally jumping. Not the same.
That one would be tough to pull off.
Yeah.
I don't know how much. I don't know how much I'm legally allowed to share, but like we are working on creator games too. So if YouTube's legal team's watching this, like I'm sorry, but and that's probably like we're planning.
We announced it at Brandcast, right?
Okay. Then I don't feel bad. But yeah, I mean, we thought about like, okay, is there a world where Creator Games is done in a stadium and we play some game like with a live audience? But for us, we also don't think we're going to get the talent that we want to show up. Like, obviously we create this like FOMO effect of people wanting to be in a Mr. Beast video. But there's only so much you can do. And we're like trying to get people to fly in from Australia and Europe and different parts of the country. And so we're actually just now trying to like develop these shows and these concepts for Jimmy in like a COVID world. Like we need to figure out how we produce these all from a webcam. And we're working on a few other kid shows right now where it's like, okay, we're probably not going to be able to do a physical production over the course of the next 12 months. So like, how do we actually do this? Like how we did Creator Games. And so I honestly don't think we're going back to production anytime soon. And so we're just pivoting and continuing on the same trajectory that we've done in the video game industry of using a webcam. And it's went well for us.
Definitely. And then one last thing question, I guess, for you guys. We've all talked about having teams around us, having a lot of people involved in these projects. Obviously, communication is so key in getting something, so big done in such a quick timeline. Can you offer one piece of advice on how you guys streamline your communication to keep the ball rolling? Reggie, I'll ask you first.
We all text a lot. We send emails a lot. At a certain point, stop, get on the phone, stop, do a Zoom. I know we do a lot of Zooms, and sometimes just a phone call could be great, but we just have to make sure that given that there's an electronic barrier between how close we can get, don't get so disconnected that you're just really not explaining yourself. Just make sure you get as close as you can be, whether that's a phone call, just to make sure everyone sees literally eye to eye.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Kristin or Reed?
Yeah, we didn't have a problem with communication, like whether it was Slack or email or Telegram or whatever we were using. I think what I would say is I would encourage people to like create a work-life balance, because I know it can be difficult when even for me, this is my office in Dallas and I'm here at the PC all day, and then I go home and I'm at my PC and I never leave. And I think that's the one like difficulty with like the world we're in right now is I think people have kind of lost that work-life balance. And so the communication hasn't struggled at all. I would say, if anything, I would encourage people to step away and say like, hey, I'm not answering emails after 6 o'clock at night because I'm going to spend time with family or my kids or whatever that is. So it hasn't changed for us, but that's one worry of mine.
We got a +1 from Kristin.
I mean, I absolutely second that. I've never communicated more in my whole life than this quarantine. So like step away, grab the guitar, like cook a meal. Exactly what Reed was saying. Thank you for saying that. Like that's actually the best advice.
Well, thank you guys so much. It was so great to see you guys again. And, I hope we can be working together soon in the same room. But if not, like we've all said, this will work for now. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. So now I'm going to pass the baton to my colleague and fellow development executive, Ian Roth, who worked on Create Together for a fireside chat with none other than Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Take it away, Ian.
Thanks, Lauren. Hey, everyone. As Lauren mentioned, we did a great show with Joe on Hit Record called Create Together. And you may not need any introduction, but he's going to get one anyway. You've seen him as an actor for 30 years in some of your favorite sitcoms and dramas and films. But what you might not know about Joe is that he created a platform called Hit Record, a collaborative and media platform 16 years ago. So it's really a digital media pioneer. And Hit Record allows people to collaborate and interact from all over the world on creative projects of any kind. We partnered with Brian Graydon Media and Hit Record to make the show. And before we dive in, we're going to just show you a little bit of a clip so that you can understand just how collaborative the project actually was.
This project is called Scream It Out, and it started with a video of his dad and his 2 boys who are screaming, and the dad's got a guitar, but he's not just playing them some happy-go-lucky music trying to cheer him up. He's leaning into how his boys are feeling, and he's playing them some metal. I love it. And I think the way that family was feeling right then is how a lot of us are feeling right now. So I had to jump in on the drums. You'll see what happens. Watch this.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, man. How's it going? I haven't watched that in a minute. That kid has made me laugh. I'm sitting here laughing.
There are a lot of great kids in the show in general. I think there's one who says coronavirus is poopy or something. That's her quote.
It stinks like poo, I think was her line. Yeah.
Just so
but she's from the UK, so she says it with this like beautiful erudite accent. She's like, coronavirus stinks like poo. Like that's the beauty of the internet.
Shareable moment.
Yeah.
have context, I got these numbers from Brian Graydon. 859 Hit Record members from 55 different countries contributed are featured in the show, with 1,526 pieces of art featured from over 12,672 submissions. So,
I hadn't heard those. All right.
Yeah. I guess to start, I think this is a great example of making lemonade from lemons. If you could just talk about how this came to be and how you kind of pivoted your whole life to start this show.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's two answers to that question. One, pivoting my life to start Hit Record many, many years ago, which was sort of a pivot. But I think what you're asking is about is pivoting life to make this show, Create Together. And I'll answer the first one later, maybe. But I was in the middle of shooting a traditional television show for Apple TV Plus, and this is something I've been writing and directing, and that I'm acting in, and that I've been working on actually for years, and that we were finally getting to shoot it, and we were 3 weeks into production, and then the pandemic hit, and we had to shut down, along with all other film and television production. And at first, I was deeply frustrated and upset about it, but it didn't take me too long to realize, like, oh, a lot of people are dealing with real, actual problems. This is not really a problem. This is a minor annoyance, a mild setback in a very lucky situation for me. And really, rather than being frustrated, I should be focused on being grateful. And I'm here in my house. I can still do things that I love. I can still be creative, and that's what I started doing. Because to deal with the sort of like I'm just home, I needed to do something creative, and I kind of made a commitment, like, okay, I'm going to do something every day. But for me, being creative all by myself can be hard. I feed off of other people and do better in collaborations. I always have. I grew up on sets. Sets are very collaborative environments, and that's what Hit Record is all about. Hit Record is all about people collaborating with each other to make things they might not have been able to pull off on their own. Because not everybody can put together a whole short film or a whole song or even a whole story all by themselves. And creativity is really fun to do with other people. And so as more and more people were locked in their houses and staying home, trying to stay safe, we found that a lot of people were taking solace in collaborating with each other on Hit Record, making art together, spending their time at home, doing these projects. And I just thought this should be a show that's happening right now. It's positive, and it's cathartic, and it's inspiring, hopefully. And we had already worked with you guys at YouTube Originals, because we did the show with Logic last year, Band Together. Mm-hmm. And when we brought it to you guys, I couldn't believe how fast you turned it around. I've never seen anything like it in all of my years of show business. Having a team, your team, respond positively to something and say, like, yes, let's send it into production. Let's get it up and get it in front of audiences as soon as possible. And it all happened within a matter of a couple of weeks. I mean, that just doesn't usually happen at all. It usually takes a couple of years, honestly.
Yeah, I think, we look at the project we did before, which was a Band Together with Logic, and it took almost 2 years from the time you guys came in and talked about it to the time we launched it. And this was, I believe it was 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks from the pitch to delivery. And I guess, but one thing that was really interesting and different about this, and I think different than some of the projects that we talked about in the panel before this, was that we had to try to keep this interactive because we wanted it to be in the moment. So I wanted to ask you about that in terms of the challenges you felt and how we kind of solved that problem creatively. How do you keep a project relevant and interactive at the same time as, racing to deliver?
The challenge is the quick turnaround, is having just be so quick. And we've been doing this kind of collaborative art on Hit Record for years. And it's actually always been my dream to be able to put out an episode of something and in that episode say, okay, everybody, here's a creative challenge, and contribute to it now. And in a coming episode, we will see those contributions. And we've never been able to do it before because production just takes too long. Like, we did a whole series that was on cable TV called Hit Record on TV, and I was really proud of it. We won an Emmy for interactive media, but it took so long that we just, the making of it was really separate from the distribution, from the watching of it. So when people were actually watching it on TV, we couldn't issue any creative challenges that would actually show up in later episodes of the show. And even the show on YouTube Originals, like you said, the band together with Logic, it all had to be kind of self-contained. All the calls to action, all the creative challenges, all the back and forth between Logic and the world making this song together, that all happened online. And then we made the show, and then we distributed the show to audiences. So it was really different. This was the first time we've ever actually achieved the thing that for years wanted to achieve, which was in the show itself, say, hey folks, come contribute to this. And then in a subsequent episode, getting to see those contributions. It was the first time. And I think it was, I mean, you could probably tell me as much as I could tell you. Somehow we got you guys to say yes to us being able to deliver so last minute.
Yeah, it was, I think, you pushed us and said, this show has to be airing, by the middle of June because people might not be in lockdown anymore. And how is it still relevant? And so figuring out how to do that, just for the audience, we basically had some very large through lines.
It was May, wasn't it?
Yeah. It started in May and needed to end in June.
Right.
And I think you came in April. So that's kind of or the end of March. Yeah. We chose like little pieces that we could make sure that people could execute. So that was really interesting to see. And then, I think your team, or maybe you personally, decided that you wanted to contribute to the graduation special as well.
It wasn't my idea. No, it was that music teacher, Ben Perez. It was totally his idea. And I liked it. I liked his idea, and we blew it out in the biggest way that we could by supporting him and helping him do his thing that he had in mind. But it certainly wasn't my idea.
Yeah, lots of tears of joy.
I know. There's nothing sweeter than a good teacher. Teachers are just the best. I think the best people.
Actually, that's really interesting because we also had an episode where it was about people who could or couldn't stay home, which I thought was really sensitive to, that balance in the world of acknowledging all those people that are working for everybody else.
Also not my idea. But that was her name is Morgan. She goes by Vicious Vixen. But she was working in shipping, I believe it was. And she wrote this thing just really quickly one day when she found out that there had been confirmed cases of COVID at her workplace. And she was understandably really upset about it. And she just kind of vented really quick and wrote just kind of a stream of consciousness thing about how she was upset and about how it was frustrating to hear people saying, especially like people like me, people, prominent, high profile people in Hollywood, etc., saying like, everyone stay at home. And she's like, yeah, I would love to stay at home. Thanks. I can't do that. If I stay at home, what am I going to do? Quit my job? She's a single mom supporting her family. And it was a real wake up call for me. It was really illuminating. And so I said to her, like, let's make a whole piece about this. And so she and I co-led this documentary project, which formed, I think, the third episode of our series.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe it's a luxury that we can actually take time to make a show. And I guess what people might not know, or they may have seen, is that you also have a film on Amazon at the same time. You have 2 projects at Netflix. You're in the middle of making another show. And I'm just wondering, just because people might wonder, how are you finding that balance? And what are you finding different in terms of launching all these projects in the middle of this pandemic?
Well, I'm really in a lucky position. I go out to work sometimes, but I also work at home sometimes. If I'm writing or if I'm, working on developing one of these shows or I'm reading stuff, I have a certain amount of my work life happens at home in this room. And pay no attention to the instruments. Those don't make me any money. Those are just here because I like playing them. But so I already had sort of a knowledge about what it's like to try to be productive and work from home. And for me, you know, I'm a dad now. I took a couple of years off show business to when I first had kids. And I have found that the key to it is scheduling. I just schedule everything. And it feels lame at times to have your entire, you know, day scheduled, but I do. I know that I start work at 8 a.m. Before that is for family. After 5 p.m. is also for family. And between those 9 hours, I schedule it really, really full to make sure that I'm being productive and getting things done. And I don't know if that would have worked for me when I was a younger, more chaotic soul, but I find actually it works really well for me now.
Yeah, I think that is a sort of a benefit, right, of this staying home, is that you actually feel like you might have more control over your schedule. You're not racing around the world. I mean, it's nice, right, not to commute. You know, you miss, again, it's all about collaboration. I mean, all of us are in this industry because we love collaborating creatively. And it is really tricky to not actually be in the same room with somebody where the ideas kind of fly off the wall.
Yeah.
But I think we're doing
that,
an amazing
and that's just
job.
it. This is the thing. Sorry, it kind of gave me what you just said. Sort of shed a little light for me in a certain way. Like, we're all in this industry because we love collaborating creatively. Not everybody's in the industry. Not everybody can be in the industry. The industry is sort of by definition only a certain size, and I feel like a lot of the reason I'm so happy I get to be in the industry, I'm, you know, delighted I get to earn a living. But if I had to say like what I'm most grateful for, it's those collaborations. And like the reason that I want to keep working, and like the thing I'm so grateful for throughout my career is getting to be creative together with these other people that I've been so lucky to get to collaborate with, who inspire me and kind of, I just don't think it would have been possible for me without all those people. And, you know, I think that's what's so great about the internet. And, you know, this happens on YouTube for sure. People meet each other on YouTube and then they end up collaborating, and Hit Record tries to like really tune our entire platform to that exact thing happening. Finding people you want to collaborate with and having a project together with them and figuring out how you can get it done. What are the steps? And it's funny because there's like this myth of the artist who's, you know, off in their own dark room, like fighting the valiant battle like alone. And that's just not my experience of art and creativity at all. It's really all about the other people that you're doing it with.
It's true. It doesn't happen in isolation, and it has to have an audience, right? So the audience is also the participant. And this
Absolutely.
show, yeah, they very much were. We're almost out of time, but I know that you know, Hit Record is doing some other really amazing projects. You guys are also in the gaming space now. Didn't know if if that was continuing during this whole pandemic, and you know where that's going.
Yeah, we've been making music that's going to go in a couple different Ubisoft games, and yeah, people have been working on those. We're just about done with those games. All sorts of musicians, some of whom are, you know, super skilled musicians, some of whom are new and learning. But it's been a really cool thing to see everybody come together. And you know, these songs are like, there's like 10, 20, 30 people on one song, and a lot more people than you would normally have on a conventionally produced song. And it's great to see those things go into a big AAA game. We also just launched another project for a movie, sort of in celebration of a movie I'm in called Project Power that's about to come out on Netflix. And we're making a song inspired by the movie. And so, you know, anybody can come and join that. But there's projects going on all the time. This is something we've been really focused on in the last year or two. Is in the past, because we've been doing this for years, in the past, the projects on Hit Record were mostly, if not entirely, things that I started or things that other people in my office started and would lead. And we've really been working on trying to take what we've learned leading these projects over the years and give that power to anybody to come start their own project. And that power comes from building better software, but also just trying to impart the knowledge and and have that community culture and sort of creative process in place where people are used to remixing each other and building off of each other in that way. And I find it really inspiring, and I do think that this is ultimately kind of what the internet is for, is people collaborating, is people achieving things they might not have been able to do on their own. And so on Hit Record, we're trying to like see what we can do with that in the space of art and creativity. But I think that applies even beyond art and creativity. And there's all kinds of amazing stuff happening, you know, that I feel like as we continue to grow as just a species, and as more and more people who grew up with the internet, who are really used to the internet, are coming of age and getting to sort of be in charge and start their own shit, we're finding more and more that the internet isn't just a place to like see what other people are doing. The internet is a place, and not just to like kind of talk with other people, but the internet is a place to collaborate with those people, to connect up with them and be like, let's do something. I need someone, and that person might not be living in my town. That person might not be someone I would run into in real life, but I'll find you somewhere in the world, and we can do it together. And that's it's really been fantastic to have YouTube's support as we try to enable this kind of collaboration, and want to keep doing it with you guys.
Thank you. Well, on that sort of inspiring note, I think it's really great to leave on the note that the internet is actually bringing people together despite some of the controversies or discussions. And it's just something for everyone to keep in mind, that the world is still whole. And on that note, we're going to throw it back to Lauren, who's just going to wrap this up.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you guys all for joining us today at VidCon Now. Stay safe, stay creative. We can't wait to see what amazing projects you guys create while you're at home. Thank you.